this young man.
Young man.
We've been friends for many, many years. He is the host of the Basquatch Hunter Fish Out of Water, also nominated for the very first kayak show, nominated for an Emmy in lifestyle. And I'm proud to say that I was in his second episode of all time.
And third.
And third, sorry,
Yeah.
second and third, because we fished a long time. Let me introduce our host, Mr. Mike McKinstry. Y'all be sure to continue to tell him to stand up.
Tell Gene to suck in. All right, how you guys doing? So, as Gene said so nicely, I'm Mike McKinstry. I'm the host of a show called the Basquatch Hunter Fish Out of Water. We have a booth right here if you guys want info on the show. We air on Discovery Channel, Discovery Plus, Pursuit Channel, Discovery Go, Pursuit Up, a bunch of streaming platforms. All the info is right over here. We also have my first children's book and my second children's book. It's all about fishing and trying new things. It's really cool. A bunch of merch stuff over there too. Today I'm going to do a seminar. It's one of my favorite seminars to do. It's about why I got into a kayak to begin with, what kayak I use and why, and then most importantly, how I rig it up for a day on the water. Now, I've gone through these weird cycles of kayak fishing. Does anybody here have a fishing kayak already? Okay, a couple people. So you probably have done the same thing I've done. My first fishing kayak, I put every single accessory that they make, including ones that I didn't even know what they were yet, or if I needed it, but if it fit, it went on the kayak. Then also, I had this really smart idea, which most of us in here could probably relate to as well. Instead of buying the correct accessory, I figured I could make it out of PVC pipe for double the price and double the time, so I could eventually replace it with the correct accessory anyway. So my first kayak, when I see pictures, actually it's on my YouTube channel still, I leave it up for a reason because it's really funny. I had like these weird racks that I made out of PVC pipe, and I'm like, oh, it can hold 6 fishing rods right in front of me, which is a stupid idea, but to me it looked really cool. So my first kayak I had looked ridiculous. It was like a Circuit City plugged into it, everything that possible, lighting everywhere, completely useless. What I found out was fish snag on everything. You trip over everything. You end up getting caught on anything. Then if you do have the unfortunate circumstance of flipping a kayak over with 85 accessories on it, you start learning what floats and what actually sticks and what's attached. It's terrible. So now this kayak right here I have rigged up the way I have it rigged up every single day. This is the most I have it rigged actually. Some days I have less. This is how I use it for filming in my show. It's how I use it for a tournament. It's how I use it for a random day of fishing. I use as minimal as possible so I have less snags, less issues, and I can be more efficient on the water. So today I'm going to go over what accessories I have and why, and then what kayak I use and stuff like that too. The first thing you'll notice on any kayak is you don't have a lot of room. I always say the most expensive real estate on the water is in a kayak because you don't have a lot of places to put stuff. Now in a bass boat, we have endless storage, right? We have all the fishing rods fit underneath the boat. We can bring 45 tackle trays, everything you need. In a kayak, we try to do that. I mean, I bring 6 rods with me and I use one all day, but I bring 6 just because I need them. I have 6 or 7 tackle trays with me, but I only use the same bait all day because I'm stubborn, but I have to have it with me. It's just how fishermen are. It's like when my girlfriend says, do you really need another fishing rod? No, but I do. You know, it's one of the weird things. Like I don't, but I'm gonna get it. Like I have too many. So with a kayak, our little cockpit area is our home. It's our office. That's all we have. We can't get up and walk around and go to the back of the boat. There's no other storage underneath it. This is what you get right here on the top. So the first thing you'll notice is most fishing kayaks or sit on top kayaks have track mounts. These are these long hollow channels on the front and the back. So this kayak, this is the Feel Free Moken 10-foot PDL. It is a pedal drive, but I don't have the pedal drive in it because of the small pool here. So this one has track mounts on the front and the back. That allows me to add accessories really easily and slide them back and forth and move them around. I can also interchange accessories really quick. Now every accessory on this kayak is made by a company in West Virginia called Yak Attack. All made in USA, amazing products, super high quality. There's actually very conveniently placed a Yak Attack area right behind the pool. It was not on purpose, but it works perfectly. So you guys can head over to Moving Waters over here, and any accessory I have on here, you can get over there right after the seminar. But I'm gonna go over a few of the things I have and why, and then what got me into the kayak in the first place. Now, anybody here have bass boats? Same people who said they have kayaks. Interesting. So when I got my first kayak, it was a compliment to my bass boat. It wasn't to replace it. It was, there were spots I couldn't get into, and I was sick of breaking props and lower units and getting stuck and breaking trolling motor shafts and everything else every season. So I was like, I have to get a kayak as a toy, as a secondary thing, just so I can get back to these spots. Well, about 3 weeks later, I realized this doesn't require lower units and props every day like my bass boat did. It doesn't require gas, oil, trailering the way my bass boat did. Pretty much every inconvenient part of a boat was gone out of my life so quickly that the bass boat soon left as well. I haven't had a bass boat in 7 years now. 7 years going kayak only. I feel like I'm in like a bass boat, recovery meeting. Like, it's been 7 years since I went bass boat, guys, so good recovery. But no, so I stuck to kayaks because they go everywhere boats can go, but they go where the boats can't go too. So when I chose a kayak, I needed something that would feel like a bass boat. I wanted something that was stable, something that was wide, something that had a lot of options and a lot of room. Now every brand makes a kayak, almost every brand makes a kayak that will fit anyone's body shape or need or water type. The brand I chose was Feel Free Kayaks because they're extremely affordable. This one right here retails at $12.99 with the pedal drive, which is very inexpensive for a 34-inch wide kayak that you can stand in, but you also have a 10-foot length so you can move it around easily, and it's super nimble in the water. It's like a little sports car. I do have bigger models that are like a school bus. You can't turn them easily. They're not fun to move on land, but they're great on the ocean or Gulf of Mexico or Great Lakes. This one right here is kind of my be-all, do-all kayak. So first thing you'll notice when I get in this thing is, if I don't fall in, is the stability. So jumping in this kayak, it is short. It's only 10 foot long. It's only 34 inches wide, but as you can see, even with both feet on one side, I have very good stability on this boat. I could fall out of it, which I've done, which is why I don't have accessories everywhere anymore, because I trip over things, but flipping this thing over is actually pretty hard. Now, when I put accessories on here, I get my paddle out. When I put accessories on this boat, as you can see, I don't have a lot of space. Once I'm standing up, once I'm moving around, there's not a lot of room on this boat. So the first thing I did, that was a heavy breath, sorry. First thing I did was sat down in the boat, and this is my first recommendation to everybody. Sit in your kayak and look around. Look around and see what you need in front of you, what you can reach. Make sure that everything's accessible. You don't want to have something you can't reach or something that's too close to something else. So I always sit in a kayak and picture it like an airplane cockpit. Like you're sitting still the entire time. What can I touch? What can I move? Just like in your car. If you had to reach over across your passenger seat to reach your radio, you wouldn't be able to change the station while you're driving. Same thing in a kayak. When you're sitting in your seat, you don't want to move around too much. You want to be comfortable and have everything within reach. So the first thing I added to my kayak, which is, in my opinion, the most important accessory I've ever had on a kayak, is a rod holder, okay? Now, almost every kayak comes with flush mount rod holders on the backs, which is awesome for storage, but having something right next to you and really easy to access is extremely important too. So this rod holder right here, it's called the Omega Pro from Yak Attack. Now I have a little mount, it's hard to see with these kayaks in front of me, but let me turn a little bit. I have a mount, it's called a sidearm, that sticks the rod holder out about this far out of my kayak. Now that's so when I have a pedal drive in, I'm not kicking my rod holder or kicking my rod out of the kayak. Anybody here ever lost a rod in the water? Yeah, anyone who's fished, it's a slow hand raise. You're like, sorry. I've lost phones, rods, everything, millions of times. Having it away from you, out of the way, is probably the most important thing you can do. It's like having insurance on your fishing rod. So when I'm catching a fish, or changing bait, or managing my line, doing anything with my line, the last thing I want to do is have a rod sitting right here. I don't want to put it across my lap. I don't want it anywhere where I could break it, drop it, step on it, or anything. So having that rod holder right there so I'm hands-free, now I can manage a fish, I can manage a bait, I can do anything I need to do without worrying about the rod falling in the water, right? So if it's in the rod holder, it's not in the water. Really important thing. So that's probably the most important accessory I put on every kayak, no matter which kayak it is. First thing is a rod holder, something to keep the rod safe, secure, and out of my way. Now the second thing is right behind me, the big orange thing. Raise of hands, anyone know what it is? Anyone know what those things are for? Right here, I don't know what side it was on. So this is the VisiCarbon Pro Flag and Visibility Kit. The reason why that's so important is that a lot of boaters don't see kayaks, or they claim they don't see kayaks, depends on what lake you're on. So the orange flag gives you extremely good visibility, 360 degrees, but one of the coolest things about that flag, on top of it, there is a light, if I can do it one-handed, Oh, the battery's probably dead. There's a light right on top. If I spin the top, it'll turn on. It gives me 360 degree at night or in the dawn or dusk when I'm launching. That way I'm Coast Guard safe, which is important. I'm from Detroit, so Lake St. Clair is a big body of water I fish. If you don't have that light, Coast Guard will take you off the water pretty quick. So having that 360 light is extremely important too, because you want to be visible. You want to be safe, you want to be visible. Plus, if you're out with your buddies and they want to make sure you're safe, they can see you anywhere you are too. So I always like having that flag and that light first. And that mounts right in the track system, right in the back, so it's not in the way. It folds up into itself as well, so it's completely out of the way all the time. Really convenient. Let me turn my kayak around here. I got 2 more accessories to show you guys before we go into some more fun. So in the back of the kayak right here, does anybody have tackle crates in their kayaks? Couple people? There you go, it was a fast hand raise. So in the back of the kayak, I have a Black Pack Pro. This is also by Yak Attack. And the reason why this one is so important to me is I have all of my tackle, and I can throw so much stuff in here. I have a ridiculous amount of trays back here. I have bags. I can throw everything in here because there's so much room. And what's really important, let me get this out of the way. What's really important about having this crate is the rod holders too. So when my rod's not up here, remember how I mentioned you don't want to have them too close to you because you'll lose them in the water? Any spare rods I have fit right back here, and I can put up to 6 in this crate. So I can have them back here, have them in front, anywhere I want, so I can easily reach back and grab another rod. The one thing you want to watch out for though is when you're casting, you don't want to cast overhead because you'll snag one of those rods and throw them over you. I think I've actually seen some people that are here do that before. Remember you did that to me in Kentucky? I've seen people cast over their head, grab a rod, cast it out in front of them, or break both the rods doing it. So you always want to be aware of what's around you. So getting back to why I rig my kayak the way I do, if you guys notice on this side, let me get this out of the way. On this side of my kayak, I'm left-handed. So the left side, there's no accessories sticking up, right? All that's up here in the front is my GoPro mount right here in the very front, out of the way. Now the reason why I do that is because when I'm landing a fish, I don't want to snag any accessories over here. So you can see I have a fish finder right here, I have a rod holder right here. There's no room on this side, right? On the right side. On the left side, if I'm landing a fish, I have all this room right here. I bring all my fish to my left side because I'm left-handed. So I'll keep the rod in my right hand, pull it up, grab my fish, nothing in the way. The last thing you want to do when you're landing a fish, whether it's for fun, in a tournament, you're filming, whatever it is, you don't want to lose it last second at the boat or have it wrap around all your accessories, it breaks off, you're trying to manage all this stuff. It turns into a terrible chaos that you don't want to deal with on the water. So I have no accessories on this whole side over here in this area for that reason. Now earlier I mentioned how I over-rigged my first kayak like a lot of us do. That was one of my biggest mistakes is I had everything. I had cup holders, phone holders, everything on my left side. So when I went to land a fish, I would be doing this weird little snag dance around all my accessories and breaking line and breaking rods, breaking fish off, and it was terrible. So I learned really quickly, all my big accessories go on the right side where I'm not in danger of losing a fish. My left side stays wide open so I can land that fish. I don't know if non-fishermen can relate to this, but losing a fish last second is probably one of the most gut-wrenching feelings in the world. And if it's your own fault, it's even worse because you can't really complain about it because someone's going to tell you it's your fault. So I learned to keep this side open, and it's been amazing for me to learn that one. Now the last accessory I'll show you guys is, this is a new accessory to me, but this is the Yak Attack cell block. This is where I keep my fish finder. I just started using this recently because my other kayaks have permanent mounted fish finders. Has anybody mounted a fish finder on a kayak? Couple people? So there's a lot of drilling, which makes you really nervous, a lot of wires to run. You always have to figure out where your battery goes. Every kayak is different, but it's never fun mounting a fish finder in my experience. This takes all of that work out of the question for you. So the cell block has a built-in battery. This one's got a 20 amp hour lithium battery in the box. The transducer arm is right here, if I can lift it up high enough. It's right here in the water, so it's attached to the box, and I can drop it right in the water. You can customize the length of that transducer arm so it doesn't go too deep in the water and snag anything or hit anything on the bottom before the hull of the kayak does. And you can mount any fish finder on top. It has different mounts that you can get to mount any size fish finder. So this one is all one unit with 2 really quick thumb screws. I can take this off and put it on a different kayak within seconds. I can swap out different kayaks and put them on it really easily, no drilling, no issues, and that allows me to have everything mobile. So if I'm going out on a lake where I know it's 3 foot deep, I don't need a fish finder, I know the lake really well, this comes off, goes in the truck, no problems. You can't really do that when you hard mount a fish finder. So this one's new to me. I've only used it a few times now, but I absolutely love how modular it is, and it makes it really convenient. They do have these over at the booth behind me as well, so you guys can check them out in person and look how they mount and stuff. But the last thing, how am I doing on time here? Last thing I'll go over with you guys. I mentioned earlier that when you flip, you lose everything. That's the one hard part about a sit on top kayak, is that anything that's not floating or attached, you have to pretty much donate it to the lake or assume it's donated to the lake. It's kind of like going to the casino with 50 bucks. You got to assume it's a donation, that you're not going to walk out with that 50 bucks, right? So I've lost cell phones, fishing rods, everything you see in this kayak I've lost at least 1 or 2 times before I learned everything should float, be attached, or be prepared to be donated to the lake. So one thing I do have is my pliers, and they are tethered to my kayak on a retractable tether. And I do that because pliers are expensive, and I don't know how many times I've caught a fish, and instead of releasing the fish, I've released the pliers. And I'm holding the fish and can't figure out where my pliers went. And I've done that enough times now where I learned to tie them to my kayak. So my GoPro mount has a floater on it right there. It comes like that from Yak Attack. My fish finder is bolted down, and I will be adding a tether to it as well in case I kick it really hard. Anything happens where it breaks off, I will have that tied down. My rod mount is locked in. My paddles all float. My tackle crate in the back is bungee corded into my kayak, so if I flip over, that won't leave. I've learned the hard way, whatever isn't tied down will end up at the bottom of the lake, and it's not fun. It hurts your pride more than anything, but it is expensive too. So make sure you always strap down your accessories. And that's kind of how I rig this thing up. It's really simple: fish finder, GoPro mount if you want to film, rod holder, most important things, and of course the safety visibility flag. Most important things I have in this kayak, and that's how I rig it up for a good day on the water. Now if anyone has any questions or wants to see this kayak specifically, I'm going to pull it up to the stage up here so you guys can come up and touch it, look at it, ask questions. And then every seminar I do the rest of the week as well, I will keep it up here on the side of the pool so you guys can come see it and go that route as well. Is there any questions about the kayak rigging? Yes? Let me pull over to you real quick. I couldn't hear you.
Having everything mounted on the right side, does that change your balance?
Oh, okay. So he asked if having everything mounted on the right side, if it changes my balance. So one of the great things about almost every brand of kayak that makes the wider kayaks, they have this thing called secondary stability. So the primary stability is this motion right here. When you start leaning the kayak over, you'll get that secondary stability. So the extra weight on this side, it'll throw off the balance if I'm in my secondary spot. I can notice the battery weight over here a little bit, but it doesn't change it enough where it's going to flip the kayak over. It's not going to change it that much. I have noticed when I had my bigger batteries, like in my other kayak, I have a huge battery right in the middle back here. When I'm hitting waves straight forward, I'll notice the back sinks down a little bit like that, but side to side, I haven't noticed this thing make any difference yet. So I don't think it will. But as I use it more, I will be looking for that for sure. But usually these accessories are super light, they're plastic. They'll add an extra pound or two. I think that battery weighs about 4 or 5 pounds. So that extra weight is just like having an anchor. So it's no difference to me. But that stability of these boats, I mean, it takes a lot to make a big impact. And there's some bigger dudes that use these boats that stand up with them like it's nothing. It blows my mind how brave people get on these things. But yeah, usually the stability is pretty solid on them. Any other questions with them? Yes? Yeah, so he asked if I use an anchoring system or I don't have one and why. So on this kayak, I don't use an anchor system 99% of the time. The main reason is because I have a pedal drive in it usually, so I can pedal back and forth really fast and kind of secure my position while I'm fishing, so I don't need to anchor as much. When I do add an anchor in, I have a 30-foot of paracord I keep under my seat usually with a downrigger ball shaped anchor. It's made by a company called Da Bomb Anchor Company. It's just a big ball, like a cannonball. The reason why I use the ball is it doesn't snag on anything and won't get you stuck. You can move it around easily. A lot of lakes that I fish on have hard surfaces on the bottom, so that ball will just slow you down. It'll keep you moving, but it'll slow you down enough where you'll stay put, or if it's in muck, it'll keep you put. I don't use an anchor all the time because I can just pedal. It's in the way sometimes. I do worry about snag points as well. If an anchor sits still and you flip over it, it's really dangerous. So I try not to use an anchor unless I really have to. Lake St. Clair, I'll use my downrigger ball anchor just because it's hard surface, it'll drag a little bit. It's like a drift sock at that point almost, it'll slow me down. But with the pedal drive, anchors aren't really as important as they used to be for me just because you can pedal back and forth and kind of retain your position, if that makes sense. Any other questions about the kayak or the rigging or anything? Nope, that means I did a really good job, or everyone's really shy, so it's awesome. So if you have any more questions, feel free. I'll be at the booth over here, or come check out the kayak up here. It'll be sitting on display for you guys too. But thank you for coming to the seminar, and we have another one coming up next with Gene Jensen on kayak safety, so stay put.
Don't miss the Basquatch Hunter, Fish Out of Water, on the Discovery Channel, the Pursuit Channel, and online everywhere. BasquatchHunter.com